You'll note the scope of our services is consistent with prior year, so there are no changes there. Next lists our audit timeline. We have already performed our planning and interim visit, so all went really well with Lucy and Palki and their teams. And then we will come back for our year-end audit in March, and then we'll have our presentation to you April 18th. Okay, now we'll just move on to our significant risks. So we have 3 of them, which are also consistent with the prior year. There's nothing new here. So the first is the risk of management override of controls, and this is a risk that we have on all our audits, and it's just the ability of management to be able to circumvent controls. So we do design procedures for this risk. Okay, next we have contributed tangible capital assets. So when assets are contributed, a value is placed to them. So this is a risk for us because a lot of the values are determined by certain valuators. There's lots of estimates and judgments that go into it. So for this reason, we consider this risk. And again, we have designed audit procedures to address this. And the last one is the risk of fraud in revenue recognition. So once again, like the management override of controls, this is a presumed risk that we do have in all our audits, and in particular in relation to the occurrence of revenues. So again, we have designed specific audit procedures for this risk, and they are listed in the report. Moving on, it discusses our materiality. So it sets our preliminary materiality level and also the level in which we will present adjustments to you. Okay, I will just move on past the next parts because we discussed those during the in-camera session. In terms of the fee schedule, our fees are consistent with the proposal that we had prepared to you and consistent with the prior year as well. And then there's just the 2 appendices, which are our engagement letter and independence letter. So now we'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Jill. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I don't think there are going to be any questions, to be honest with you. Oh, you're good to go.
Great.
You got off lucky today. I'm sure they'll be coming forth in April.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving along, we're at, yes, I stop whispering in my ear. I told you this before. It's all good. Can I get a motion, please, to accept for information? Yes, Councillor Bellick.
Forward.
All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. We're on to item 5.1, and we are looking for Pelkey again, please, for 2016 third quarter budget update. Thank you, ladies. See you soon. Please. And if we could dim the lights. I know Greg Lockhart has trouble with his eyes at night and things.
All right. Ooh. Okay, good evening once again. So the quarter 3 results for 2016 are projecting a surplus of $1.38 million, which is minimal compared to this year's operating budget. At the end of Q2, our surplus projected was $422,000. Most of these variances you've seen through Q1 and Q2 as well. Some of the decline in revenue streams at the end of the third quarter are decreased interest revenue and franchise fees for a total of $408,000. I've also taken into account anticipating a reduction of $550,000 for AMSQ board not declaring the dividends as per 2015 year end. Billing inspections activity for third quarter is projecting a reduced revenue of $445,000, which is in line with Q1 and Q2 projections again. Similar impacts are seen in planning department revenues of $144,000 lower than budget, as well as engineering department of $112,000 lower than budget due to less acres being developed. Overall, we're seeing Genesis Place is projecting to be $117,000 under budget. The third quarter results are showing a net decrease of $86,000 in revenue, a majority of which is due to lower sales of annual passes and admission fees of $343,000. This is being offset by savings in personnel costs, purchase services, and utilities in the amount of $202,000. Transit, on the other hand, is projecting to be over budget by $103,000. Again, it's showing a net decrease of $363,000 in transit cash fares, which is due to the low ridership on regional services, including ICE. This is being offset by contracted services due to lower fuel prices in the amount of $262,000. Some of the excess revenues we saw this year were the $151,000 of excess of WCB Alberta surplus distribution to their employers, and also seeing higher police fines revenue for a net of $356,000 due to the Safe City Road program watches. Now onto the expenses. Fleet is still projecting lower fuel expenses by $108,000 at the end of third quarter. Road maintenance is projecting savings of contracted services for winter operations based on mild weather conditions of a total of $200,000, plus lower power consumption for traffic signals and street lights for $161,000. We are also seeing lower expenses in the policing agreement as we received a credit for the last year's adjustments for a total of $249,000. Also, the budgeted amount for winter games will not be required, so we have an excess of $100,000 there. Overall, personnel cost savings of $960,000 out of a $49.5 million total budget for salaries, wages, and benefits. And Lucy will get into a little bit more at the end of this presentation on that for you. The one area we are seeing a deficit in expenses is taking into consideration the $100,000 of unbudgeted grant to Airdrie and Health Benefits Cooperative. For water, sewer, and waste, we're seeing everything on track with budget, and expected utility contributions to operating funds will be met. And for the capital, as at September 30th, this slide shows all the budget amendments that have gone through in the first 3 quarters, bringing the total approved capital budget to $99.5 million. Spent to date, as at September 30th, is $20.4 million. And now Lucy would like to wrap up.
If I could just add in a couple of comments at the end here. 2016 has been a bit of a challenging year with our projections. We still continue to see decrease in that development activity type revenue with that year-end shortfall, as Pelkey has mentioned, at about $700,000. So just to take us back to the beginning of the year and around that first quarter, where administration we put in place some measures to try to mitigate the effects of what this downturn in the economy. So we had some positions that were frozen. We cut back the training dollars to 2015 level, and we also delayed the non-unionized compensation model. We continued to keep these measures in place even after results of quarter 2, since there wasn't a whole lot of comfort with what we were seeing in quarter 2 as well. So it's just good to see at quarter 3 that some of the items are in a better position, that are more positive, especially as we look at the operations for Genesis and Transit. So the surplus that's projected now will just allow those previously frozen positions to just move forward with recruitment. And the committee is aware with the new compensation model that with the information that we brought forward with 2017 budget, that we've pushed that new compensation model out to 2018, so that in 17 we can take a look and retest the salaries out there as well. You may likely have noticed in part of the recommendations, Pelkey has spoken about tax stabilization reserves as well, and as we get to your fourth quarter results, we will look at some final numbers around that, and as the committee did last year, you may want to be designating some of these savings that you're seeing in here to directly be moved into a tax stabilization reserve. So we just thought we'd start to talk about that in quarter 3 and bring more information as you come to quarter 4. As we formalize your new fiscal framework, of course, we'll get down in writing the types of revenue streams or savings that you're seeing in one given year that would be earmarked to go into tax stabilization. One of the things that always comes top to our mind is the fluctuations that we see in our RCMP contract, things like that, right? And I just want to make sure that there's clarity on the dividend revenues. We maintained the same assumption as we came to quarter 3, where the AMSQ Corporation would not declare dividends for 2016, and that was in line with plans talked about at the AMSQ board earlier in the year. Did write in the report, obviously, that the report and decision-making around dividends will come to the November 28th meeting, so that may obviously change for year-end as well. Okay. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks, Lucy. Just a question around the dividend, the $500,000, will that be coming to AMSQ for reconsideration?
Just through the chair, for November 28th, which you will get that agenda very shortly, in the next couple of, tomorrow you'll have the agenda. So there is a report that's prepared for that will look at dividend declaration for 2016. Okay,
perfect. And thanks to you and your team for recognizing it was a really difficult year and all the adjustments we had to make this work. So thank you. Councillor Chapman, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair, just a question. The $356,000 basically extra in fine revenue, is that both from ME and RCMP?
That is just the police protection part.
So that is just RCMP?
That is just RCMP.
Okay. Do we have any numbers on how is municipal enforcement doing on their numbers for fine revenue? Is that on par or on budget?
It is.
That's all I need to know.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions for Pelkey or Lucy? No? Okay. Thank you very much, ladies. Can I get a motion, please? Yes, Councillor.
I'll make the motion, Your Worship, to accept the 2016 third quarter budget update for information.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And we've gone through committee of the whole, so we'll call the meeting to adjourn. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.